Good afternoon. We will start the webcast momentarily. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining Exigent Solutions for this afternoon's webinar. Our presenter today is Amos Asa. Amos is the Chief Security Officer and Senior Solutions Architect for Exigent Solutions. Amos has nearly 20 years of IT experience, both running data centers and helping customers achieve IT efficiency through focused, practical use of technology.
Thank you, Rhonda. Good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the webinar Master of Disaster series, the evolution of DR, gaining IT resilience. I know we've got a diverse audience here today with us, lots of different roles and different experience levels. So we're going to do a little bit of a level set and cover a few key items as we build up towards the topic of true IT resilience. So what is BCDR? BCDR, the Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery. And you want your business to stay running, and you want to be able to quickly and successfully recover your business should something go wrong. Business continuity is regarded as the practice to be able to continue your business seamlessly or as quickly as possible should something happen. Disaster recovery is the concept of having systems and procedures in place to get your organization back up and running in the event of a disaster causing downtime to your systems and your infrastructure. And I want today to help you understand what companies have been going through when they're planning out their strategies and adopting technologies to minimize downtime within IT. But one of the hardest challenges the business encounters is to correctly allocate budgets and priorities to what they often consider is a type of insurance policy for IT in the event of the what-ifs. So if we think about this along the lines or the analogy of protecting your vehicle, while none of us like the cost of auto insurance because we all know we're good drivers, we're careful when we drive, and it's been a really long time since the last time we had a quote-unquote disaster with our vehicle or a car accident. But car accidents can cause expensive damage and include expensive medical bills, and over the years that we've learned that we can't really afford or don't want to cover the costs that come from those disasters. So we shop around for the best deal to have at least some sort of minimal coverage for our vehicles. So I'm not here to talk to you today about an insurance policy, but I do want to help you understand how you can keep your business up and running and what we can learn from others and what they are doing in this space. First, let's go over a couple of key terms in the industry. First, we have RPO, the Recovery Point Objective. That's the point in time where you can get back to in the event of data loss, meaning if we take a nightly backup of our systems, that means we can recover from that backup, but it could put you at a point that is up to 24 hours back in time, depending on how far out the disaster occurs from when the backup actually was taken. So your business has to decide, is 24 hours a reasonable amount of time to restore from? Then there's RTO, the Recovery Time Objective. It's the amount of time it's going to take for you to get your systems and your data back up and running into a working and usable state. This should be dictated by the business, but meaning how long can you afford to be down before everything has got to be back up and running. And your BCDR plan must have those processes in place to ensure the operations and those technologies are finely tuned together in order to ensure that those RTOs or recovery time objectives can be met during a disaster, because time is crucial and people are under a lot of pressure. The one thing I want to make sure you understand, the recovery point and the recovery time for your business is something that is supposed to be determined by the business. And that might sound obvious, but sometimes the RPO and RTO are really determined by the technology limitations and not by the business. And your business accepts this fact due to a number of reasons, and we'll get into those as we move through the presentation today. During the exercises we go through for determining what we need for an RPO and an RTO, technology does need to be looked at. Of course, you've got a choice of 3 different solutions, right? If you want the fastest and easiest solutions with the lowest RTO and RPO, but the price comes in way too high, then you're going to have to negotiate those business objective needs in order to match the risk of the disaster happening versus the actual cost of those solutions. And this is kind of your insurance policy. The same thing happens with your auto insurance, right? So you might pick the best pricing model with the understanding and expectations that if something goes wrong with your vehicle, you get into a car accident, it gets hit by a tree, that your car's RTO, or the time to get a replacement, is probably going to be between a day and a week, sometimes maybe even more. So not exactly ideal, and definitely doesn't meet your needs and wants, but it fits into the budget and you'll get by because you know the risk of needing it is probably pretty low. So there are different solutions for different needs and expectations. Oftentimes we see many different products or solutions in place to accommodate the protection or recovery of all of these different risks. Lots of different risks, including power or hardware failures. We see in the news a lot lately the CryptoLocker viruses and other variants of ransomware, and even other errors such as file deletions or blue screens or corruption through human error or whatnot. Nightly backups are still extremely common within the business, and many of you are probably still doing that today. Some probably do it to tape. More likely these days, most people are doing it to disk, which does increase the speed at which you can bring that data back, but it's still not perfect. Sometimes new technology comes out, though, that is now readily affordable and allows you to take advantage of things like snapshots, taking a point-in-time picture of that storage or virtual machine where your systems and data live. And this does help to reduce that RPO, and it also helps to reduce your RTO as well. We'll see later on that you don't have to stop here, and it only gets better as you move forward with the latest technologies that are available for you. When you hear about the alternative technologies, that are tried and true, you need to take some time really to look at those because you don't want to continue what you've been doing just because it's what you've always done. You don't have to accept that. There is a saying that the 7 most expensive words in business are, "We have always done it that way." But remember that requirements are changing, competition is driving new technologies, they're driving new methodologies, and they're also driving more value than what you experienced in the last time you ran through a BCDR activity. You know, that one that involved planning out your strategy, selecting the solution that fit your budget, and adjusting those acceptable RTOs and RPOs to fit this. Quite often, businesses are implementing multiple strategies and solutions to accommodate the different types of disasters, such as power or hardware failures, network outages, data corruption, loss through people deleting things accidentally, or even things like ransomware, just plain due to errors. These solutions bring different operations, and sometimes their RPO and RTO numbers differ based on the business. But in any case, you'll have to remember that all of these impacts cause data loss, and downtime. So major disruptions are the norm, and they are not rare events. Remember that insurance policy that was intended to help you in the rare event that you encounter a disaster? That's not so rare anymore. They're not rare, and they are impacting you. So let's dig a little bit deeper on what some of these can be. People often consider natural disasters to be what they are protecting the business against with a BCDR plan. Hurricanes, floods, fires, those sorts of things cause outages and loss of access to systems. The data you see here on the screen is from a recent study that helped us show that natural disasters are not the only item impacting business. There are a lot of other disasters that can impact your business as well. These numbers obviously don't add up to 100%, but that's because each of the respondents who we talked to about these had different items and could select more than one answer. It means that there's a 43% chance that you could have a power failure, bringing systems down, and then 31% chance of hardware failure and a 15% of chance of software failures and so on. And in fact, the natural disasters don't even make this list. They fall into the everything else category at the bottom. And hurricanes actually are the highest with about a 12% chance. I'm not sure where you're at, but where we're at, hurricanes aren't very common. When one of those disasters strikes, what do? Do you lose all of your systems and you're scrambling to get them back up and recovered from your last recovery point? Do you panic because you only planned for a natural disaster to cause a complete and total outage and you don't know where to start? Maybe only some of your systems were impacted, but how much of the business is that taking down? Are your online stores down so you can't take new orders? You can't enter deals into the sales systems. Maybe it's your email. Maybe it's financial systems that are down, so people just plain can't work in the office. Now you have groups down. You've got IT and operations ignoring their daily normal jobs because they're scrambling to get everything back up. And then you have the application owners ignoring their day jobs because they not only have to test the recovered functionality, but also have to spend hours recovering and entering lost data because your RPO is too far back. So disasters are the norm. They happen and they cause a lot more pain and cost than you may have originally planned for. Again, if you're doing it that way because that's the way you've always done it, don't worry, there is hope. We've mentioned a lot of unplanned outages that you might experience in your business, but what about the planned stuff as well? I've gone through some of these, and you've gone through some of these, and how long is this really taking? We know that a scheduled maintenance window usually has a buffer built into it to troubleshoot any errors, and you still need to schedule this with the appropriate teams and your business units that are involved to account for something going wrong. And what happens when something goes wrong during the migration, say on a Friday night, and you're getting that server and application owners involved all weekend until it's resolved? And you need to determine what is your breaking point, which you can decide to roll back or continue ahead because you no longer can roll back. What happens when server migrations that you neglect now reschedule because you were tending to this particular failed one? What happens if you've already moved some of the servers that are part of an application? Do you need to split them across data centers now? Maybe. Are you even able to? What happens if you migrate all of the application servers but still have an issue that you troubleshoot all weekend until you realize there was an infrastructure misconfiguration or something, and you forgot to migrate another server for this application that no one even knew or existed. It's unplanned downtime and lots of it. So let's go back to our car analogy for a second. If you've got a choice between an auto insurer or something like a full pit crew, like a race team might have, with current plans in place, the average person probably just has the insurance to cover the major outages, the smoking craters as we refer to it in the IT industry. But what if you have to do maintenance like replace your brakes, your tires, your wheels and suspension, and something else goes wrong? Your insurance policy is probably not there for you. Sometimes in the event of a cracked windshield, maybe it might be covered, or if something, one of those upgrades were to cause an accident, it might be covered, but generally insurance doesn't cover those items. You might need a separate policy from a different vendor, right? Some of us have the idea of roadside assistance. So if you've got a flat tire, or you run out of gas, or you have a dead battery, you might have those available to you, but even in those cases, you're going to experience that please wait 45 minutes to 2 hours it takes for them to arrive. As a race team, that's probably not acceptable, and in your business, that's probably not acceptable as well. Like I said, race teams need their cars working all the time, and you need your business working all the time. Business is not really 9 to 5 anymore. It's 24/7. Global offices are spanning multiple time zones and need to be up. You no longer have the same maintenance windows or backup windows. You're working globally and selling globally, and even if your local business hasn't reached into that full global market, people are going home, forgetting something. They mean to get to something later. They're accessing your systems and data on their phones or their iPads or whatever tablet, or they're on their laptops over the weekend, and systems need to be up and your business needs to run. And the business is a lot like a race team. But believe it or not, you actually can get a pit crew for your business today. Technology is changing, and it's helped many organizations change that 24-hour RPO and RTO to just hours or minutes or even seconds. And technology is getting better and more affordable, and you no longer have to accept these long RPOs and RTOs with different types of outages and downtime. So as we all know, IT is always evolving, always changing, and we need to take advantage of this evolution and not be held back by our older technologies and systems anymore. As IT has evolved, we have started with physical servers. We had that for a long time, and everyone here is familiar with that. But of course, there's inherent vulnerabilities with living in an entirely physical IT infrastructure. So virtualization came along and has really started to take over by abstracting that physical compute layer in order to help businesses fix those gaps in those physical limitations and mobility and recovery. Then there's the concept of a software-defined data center, SDDC, in the same way that virtualization made those compute resources software-defined or not dependent on the hardware. Other technologies are following suit, and there's now software-defined storage, there's software-defined networking, security, and replication. But software-defined is really, or being software-defined is really all about taking those advantages of mobility, flexibility, agility, and being able to enable the technology now to run at the speed of business. And so that brings us to cloud computing. Making your own cloud means your systems are more software-defined, and more software-defined means it's easier to consume more types of clouds and really puts the power and control in your hands. We have the private cloud, the public cloud, we've got hosted clouds, and then there's combinations or hybrids. And this shift is really happening in every type of organization. We need to stop worrying about an insurance policy for a disaster recovery and focus more on that pit crew. We have so many disasters we haven't even classified correctly in our business, but truly causing downtime, loss, and rework are covered by ancient methodologies and those old technologies like that tape backup. IT resilience is about minimizing the worry of downtime. We like to think of it more as concentrating or maximizing our uptime. The business may not even know a disaster has occurred if the organization is resilient and if we can quickly recover with little or no data loss. So what if you could reduce your loss to only seconds? What if you could recover whatever it is that you lost and you need within minutes? What if you no longer needed the, quote, all hands on deck to address every single impact of the business? Would this give you more time to focus on your business objectives? We've talked about why virtualization is big and why it's been changing in order to help move the business to the future and take advantage of the cloud-like entities. And with all these advantages, you might find it hard to believe that businesses are still running physical servers, and yet some still have limitations and aren't yet prepared to be virtualized, but not putting time and effort into addressing this actually causes more outages and inflexibility in your organization. Let's take a look at why. Here's an example. We're not going to use the actual name of the business, but you've probably heard about it in the news recently where a good-sized business had an outage that impacted a data center in the Atlanta area, running out about 180 of their applications. It was a power issue. They had a power outage, but worse than that, they had UPS in place, and that UPS failed. This particular company had no DR site for that particular data center, and they also weren't virtualized. It was a huge impact to the business that they weren't expecting because they always thought they were just covered. So there was no DR site. This means no resilience to IT outages and absolutely no quick recovery. And it just simply means no guarantee. To resolve this, what you need is a DR site, the ability to restore and run your applications, test the failover regularly, and when you know your results are consistently successful, you can at least guarantee recovery. Also, you do have to make sure that this covers you against multiple types of disasters. Physical sites are often really complex, meaning physical servers, those requirements and dependencies, the build times they possess, they're challenging and there's plenty of room for error. Also, you get vendor lock-in and days to recover from a disaster, and it makes it hard to test as well. So we introduced virtualization, this thing of a huge container with all your applications and data. It's portable and easier to recover with all the same hardware. Without the same hardware vendor lock-in, and there's more DR options available once you start virtualizing. Physical sites. So we've realized there are many great reasons to move away from those physical sites and to virtualize. And this is a topic we could discuss for hours on end, but for now we've got to stick to our schedule of the 30-minute demonstration here. And so there's plenty of ways to protect a virtualized environment. Virtual machines can bring data loss of up to 24 hours if you're just doing backups, and another recovery time of 24 hours on top of that. And it's rarely tested. It has a high failure rate depending on the technology and the method of recovery, and has limited use in DR. Storage replication, on the other hand, does get your data loss RPOs down to a couple of hours, and it can still take a couple of hours to recover and actually repair everything that didn't replicate quite like it was supposed to. It doesn't get tested much as it should be as well, again, because there's a lot of complexities to it, and the outage windows are just too great for today's organizations. And it is more robust for disaster recovery, but it's still complex and not virtualization aware. As we move towards being more software-defined, we rely less on those physical infrastructure hosting environments, so we can now experience fewer outages in some cases, but also allow for a faster recoverability. You don't even need to have site lock-in either. We can take advantage of clouds and have the flexibility of running your workloads from anywhere, knowing everything is consistent and capable and can be quickly recovered. And so right now, we really are at a cloud tipping point. Many businesses are splitting their workloads to run in a public cloud or a hosted cloud or some sort of hybrid between the two. So let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about disaster recovery as a service and what this offers to your business. What does it mean, DRaaS? It means that someone else is hosting your disaster recovery site, and that you have you might have an on-premise cloud and you want to put your DR in someone else's cloud, or it might mean that you've moved your workloads from on-site to the cloud to run, but want to have a disaster recovery site at another cloud site. When you run your own DR site, you have the expense of power, cooling, real estate, the hardware that's required, the networking, licenses, administration, etc. And you're kind of locked in. You're locked into that site for a period of time, whatever lease you had on that, and from whatever and whenever you want to leave, it's not that easy or quick. Refreshes cost a lot of money, and of course growing exponentially if you maintain even more than just one DR site. However, with DRaaS, or disaster recovery as a service, you only pay for what you use, and you also have the flexibility to migrate there if you decide to in the future. You don't carry the cost or the planning of hardware refreshes on that site, and you can predict almost exactly what's going to cost you for the year, month over month, and you can take advantage of managed cloud providers that do all the work for you. You can let them manage the infrastructure and actually deal with the DR events as well. So when you're looking at a disaster recovery as a service, there are some key questions you're going to want to ask. And when you're ready to move forward, you're ready to get an affordable, reliable pit crew for your business, a lot of options to choose from here. So where do you start, and what should you be asking so you aren't getting stuck with too many limitations that you just weren't expecting? When you start your research, make sure you ask the important questions. Does the offering give you any visibility into your protection? Do you know what the current replication state is and what the latest recoverable point in time is that you can actually get your business running on? Some solutions show you that your sites are connected, but you have no idea what the true RPO is. Even if you think about a backup solution running every night and expect a 24-hour RPO, you still may have to know when each backup job ended in order to truly know how far back you can go and for that known good data and how long that job took. Can you actually consistently prove your RTOs? Do you have down all the steps, the operations, the technical training, and the know-how? We call it a run book to execute this successfully every time. Can you easily prove your DR compliance through this process? Are you making any sacrifices such as outages or data loss during these practices in order to prove that RTO? And how many times have you tried to set and abide by that RTO you've selected based on your business and technology and have been constantly unable to make that RTO? Just because you say you have a 4-hour RTO doesn't mean you actually do until you test it. In fact, that RTO may actually be non-existent until you're guaranteed on those tests. I mentioned testing, so the solution to actually perform those isolated tests in order to help prove the RPOs, RTOs, and compliance. We can do this any time of day instead of having a DR weekend with all hands on deck. And so if you think about that, DR weekends with all hands on deck, that sounds like a disaster in and of itself. It's planned downtime, sure, but it's an outage you are causing that you could actually mitigate with an offering that allows you to test your DR solution while production is still up. What does this also mean? You can test things like migrations, data center migrations to your data center through acquisitions. You can test that the cloud, you can test out that cloud before you decide to migrate there. You make sure it all works right, and if it doesn't, then you fix it and you test again. In the meantime, your production is still up and running. As much as you want to test, you can continue to do it, you can fix it, you can optimize it. How much time is this going to save versus finding out about all these issues the night of the migrations? It causes you to work on one server all weekend. It causes all those people to be involved. This way you can test this out while everybody is in the office on Tuesday morning. Testing opens up that protection against disasters, outages your businesses encounter even when you're doing those application upgrades, operating system upgrades or patches, or even code changes. Another thing to ask about is SLAs, or your service level agreements. Does my solution or my cloud provider offer multiple SLAs that I can select the right size for my business? Can I put some workloads into one SLA and then some workloads into another? Can I choose between a very close DR site and a far away DR site? Can I trust the cloud? And the short answer on that one is yes, you can trust the cloud. We work with many businesses that run their important workloads in the cloud, and we work with others that don't. It depends on your needs and experience and finding the right cloud provider to work with. Not all clouds are created equal, that's for sure. And some people use these replication technologies to test in the cloud and try before committing to it. When using a cloud provider, look to the support offerings, the hours, the success rate with customer success stories. Are they going to be there to help you with the implementation of your solution? Are they there day one, and are they there through the day-to-day ongoing operations? And most importantly, are they there during a disaster any time of day? So when you encounter a disaster and have to fail over to your site, you don't necessarily want to be stuck there either, right? You don't want to be in a remote data center. It would be great to have the option to fail back. Some solutions require you to manually break everything you had working in order to go through the process of setting it all back up again in the other direction. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of documentation, and you have to remember what you actually have to reconfigure in the first place. So try out some solutions that offer an automated failback and actually allow you to take advantage of that, whether it's in the private cloud or a hosted cloud. You probably want to be able to fail over to your DR site, which could also be local with a one-to-many replication with just a few clicks. Then you want to be able to repair your primary site, get that back up and running the way it was while you're operating on your DR site. Then replicate your data back to the primary site and take advantage of the preceding feature just to sync the block level differences from the DR site to the primary site rather than an entire data set. And then finally fail back to the primary site. Oftentimes an application is made up of many servers dependent upon each other, and we're talking about replication technologies. The one thing that gets overlooked a lot is keeping the data between these applications in a consistent RPO state in order to successfully recover them. So the picture here is a small look into a replication schedule amongst these applications. If you need to recover them, you probably have the DB server, or the database server, a few hours behind the application, the index servers, the file servers, etc. It's a management nightmare trying to keep all of these straight and trying to keep them synced in time. It also limits your ability to take advantage of some of the nice hypervisor features that are created to help give your business more resiliency. Can you perform vMotion or enable storage DRS to mitigate storage overload or hotspots? Are you tracking VM placement in an Excel spreadsheet the hard way? Now multiply this over many applications, hundreds and thousands of VMs, and you can see how this becomes difficult. But there is a better way. Having a solution that understands those virtual machines and is capable of capturing the same point in time allows you to experience quick and easy and consistent recovery, and you don't need to spend time fixing data to get the application working again. So looking at DRaaS, or disaster recovery as a service solution, is going to open your world to so many more possibilities with not only having more recovery sites to choose from, but also much more extensive toolbox of recoverability solutions. They can help or become your pit crew to help your business running, keep your business running, and cover much more than the proverbial smoking crater disaster. It's really kind of time to evolve, and we're working hard to minimize the impact to your business, and it's really time for IT resilience. It's time to think about the ways you can maximize that uptime for your particular business. Here's a quick animation of a calculator we used when calculating a major disaster to a customer's environment. Even if you go with these particular figures for types of disasters, at least an easy way to compare the impact the solution can have on your business. If your backups are still running an RPO of 24 hours and an RTO of 24 hours, you could be looking at well above a day before you're back up and running. Replication technologies came around. They helped out a lot, but still we're looking at 4 to 8 hours there as well. And looking into hypervisor-based technologies that can recover the whole application stack and minimize the downtime or maximize your uptime with extremely short periods of data loss is really beneficial. Some hypervisor solutions can also give you the consistent protection with low bandwidth and latency requirements, enabling protection for your remote offices as well. So roll back quickly with little to no loss, and sometimes you can use the same solution to recover multiple types of disasters. There's still times where you'll need a certain solution for specific reasons, but the majority of these cases can take advantage of a solution, or a cloud provider for that matter, that can give you access to these capabilities for your disasters, including site failures, application failures across virtual machines, single virtual machine failures, or even file level recovery for many of those virtual machines. So I know we're running short on time, but to recap, take the time to figure out what the needs are of your business and future-proof them. Future-proof against site lock or vendor lock-in, whether it be from hardware or storage platforms or even hypervisor platforms. There are numerous cases of customers being able to take advantage of less expensive storage solution since the storage can become agnostic. That gives you an immediate ROI. Protect your business and maximize the uptime with the lowest RPOs and RTOs in testing and reporting to be able to prove it, and use your solution to migrate, consolidate, and move your workloads between data centers. A couple of examples of experiences of customers who moved to disaster recovery as a service and had some rave reviews. In the interest of time, I'll spare you reading those. And we want to say thank you from Exigent Solutions and taking time out of your busy schedule today to let me share with you the benefits of taking advantage of new technologies and methodologies. We'd love to have the opportunity to discuss the options that can improve your IT resiliency and achieve the required business outcomes that you need. If you're a current Exigent customer, I invite you to contact your account representative for more information. And if you aren't currently an Exigent customer, my contact information is here on the screen. Feel free to reach out at any time, email, call, however makes it most appropriate for you. Once again, we want to say thank you for attending, and we hope to speak with you soon.
Thank you, Amos, for that presentation today, and thank everyone for joining at this time.